welcome back to the last Molly Walker detection system update for Heroes Prime, as coined by our lovely Ricky. I, of course, am Lilith, and joining me, as always, is one of them.
It's me, Ricky, and by the time you hear this, we will probably be about halfway through Rebellion Reborn. So, yeah. Why not?
Up for discussion today is basically a season 4 wrap up and probably like a series like overview. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the smooth stylings of Lilith and Ricky.
Oh my god, we've got so much to go through. Yes, so we are going to start off with the 8-part comic book wrap up. I think, we'll just get straight into it. So they're all called From the Files of Primatech, and they're basically given years. So the first one's 1963, and it's got all the original founders, such as, Lindemann, Bishop, DeVoe, and Petrelli, as in Angela. And they're at a cafe, or like a jazz cafe or something, listening to who I can only assume is Emma's uncle, because his last name is Coolidge, and they're debating whether or not he has special powers, because basically he's brought in a crowd with his music, and they randomly, I know, right? They randomly meet. I say randomly, but they meet Kato, who is escaping his destiny. He only speaks Japanese, but obviously DeVoe speaks a little Japanese, and he says he's escaping his destiny, and they're talking about basically recruiting Emma's uncle, while Angela's like been taken onto the dance floor by Kato, and the Bishop. It's kind of like Bishop Bob and DeVoe have got like two differing things. Like one of them's like, it would have made Coyote Sands. It would have helped them at Coyote Sands to have someone with this power, but then at the same time, it would give them more reason to fear the kind of specials that were there. And then at the end of the day, and the episode, a fight breaks out, which kind of leads us into part 2. Mm-hmm. So, yes.
Yeah, there's no Easter eggs, but
yes,
for any of them actually that I could find, like I thought maybe they would have went back and done it, but they were like at that point, screw it. So This one was written by Howie Kaplan and the art was by Jason Bedower. So yeah, that's all I got for you.
Yep, it's all right. We move on to part 2, which is still 1963. And it starts off with basically with this riot happening, or this fight happening in the cafe that they're at. Bob and Charles start to disagree on how to use their powers, and one of them's essentially saying, we're not soldiers, and the other one's saying we should use our powers to create a revolution. And Kato all this time is kind of trying to warn Emma's uncle about something, but obviously he doesn't understand, and it ends up with Coolidge is the only way I can really describe his name. His last name is Coolidge. He ends up dying, and the rest of the founders realize that Kato kind of knew what was going to happen, so they invite him to join, and it ends with a nice cheesy picture of him. Essentially, all you're missing is the thumbs up, but yeah, it's got like Kato joining them and with a big smile. So yes.
So the same people wrote and did the art for this. I think everybody takes turns since all of them are 2-parters, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
So
Kaplan and Jason Bedower on duty again.
And the only bit of trivia we got for this is in Hero's blog. There's an article about the riot. So yeah, you obviously probably can't find that now, but still, we're moving on to part 3, which is called 1978. And it's about Mindy Sprague. She's working at 3 Mile Island, and she's trying to hand in she's trying to hand in a report about like the reactor or whatnot, and she kind of her boss tells just kind of fobs her off. She starts talking to her friend, whose name is Angela Petrelli, and is persuaded by her to hand it in, and eventually she does, and they start reading into the report and realize, yes, she is right, but of course, a meltdown starts to happen, and Mindy runs straight to the core, and her hand starts to shine.
Wow.
Yep.
Sounds dreadful. So, yeah. The person that wrote this issue was Foz McDermott, and the art was by Ryan Odegawa.
Yes, and there is a piece of trivia, which is on the chalkboard at 3 Mile Island. There's some writing on one of the chalkboards, and it's obviously very close to it's the password to Mindy Sprague's assignment tracker on Primatech Files or primatechpaper.com. Anyway, we'll move on to From the Files of Primatech Part 4, which is a continuation of 1978. Basically, Mindy is able to stop the explosion from happening because she uses her power of absorbing radiation and all that kind of stuff. And she ends up expelling the wasteful gas or whatnot out of like a vent, and it ends up causing bad weather, which ends up killing lots of people. The founders all disagree about having her join, and they end up having to cover it up. And in order to cover it up, they end up bringing a new guy in whose name is Maury Parkman. So yes.
Ooh, scandalous. You think Angela
I know,
banged
right?
him too?
Maybe he is definitely the third Petrelli banger.
I'm
We know
saying, I'm
there's
thinking,
never
because he's a
there's
disappointment.
never any talk about the mum, right? There's never any talk about Mrs. Mama Parkman, is there? So
Anyway, same as before. We could just keep moving on.
fair enough. We'll move on to From the Files of Primatech, Part 5, which is labeled 1988. And it's basically Noah and Sandra are on honeymoon in Russia, and Thompson ends up giving him an envelope and then walks away and meets up with his own partner, Claude. And Thompson and Claude are on the hunt for a special KGB agent. Claude ends up getting hit and told he's being used by the KGB agent about Thompson, and it ends up with Thompson shooting at the bad guy that they're trying to catch, and the bad guy shrinks, a la Ant-Man. So yes,
Okay, so we have somebody new on deck, which is weird. Aaron Fitzgerald was the one that wrote this issue, and the artwork was by Jason Bedauer.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I made a mistake. It's not a guy that they're after. It's a woman whose name is Sylvia. And we'll move on to From the Files of Primatech Part 6. Basically, Sylvia is on the run and she starts to kind of grow, and she ends up like kind of hitting Claude, and he ends up defenseless, and Thompson has the chance to kind of save him but ends up running away. And it ends with Angela and Thompson visiting Claude in hospital as he's bandaged up because he got stepped on by the
50
incredible
foot
growing
woman.
woman. Yes, and it ends with him being injected with the new tracker system that they have. So it seems around about 1988 was when they started to develop the tracker system.
Well, the first one anyway, but yeah.
Yes,
So same as before, Aaron Fitzgerald did the writing, Jason Bedauer did the art.
there is no trivia. No. No. So we'll move on to From the Files of Primatech Part 7. Got it right. It's in 1991, and it's basically Elle first manifesting her powers, but she's living with her mother, and her mother ends up sending her to Bob. Bob tries to give her back because he isn't quote unquote father material. Duh. And basically, Bob starts forcing the company to start putting tests on Elle because in his mind, she can be used to kind of power several cities with her powers. So yes.
Told you he was a bad man. I'm vindicated. It's fine.
Yes,
Anyway,
yeah.
Zach Crowley wrote this one, and the art was done by a Mr. Ryan Odegawa.
And we move on to From the Files of Primatech Part 8, and it's a continuation of 1991. Basically, Elle escapes, and Noah is on capture duty to try and get her back. They get her back, kind of mind wipe her, and they basically make her 9 years old. They kind of memory wipe her and just put a birthday cake and say she's 9. So yes, they do that in order to kind of get her to calm down, which is obviously a reference to season 2, episode 4 months ago, where Elle tells Peter that she spent her 9th birthday with an IV of lithium in her arm. So yes,
It all comes back around. That's the very
eventually,
last comic book.
yes,
Oh 06, oh 09, 2010. That was the end of an era officially.
definitely, yeah.
I mean, because it got canceled in
Oh,
February, so
yeah,
it was weird that they
and
were
they
still
carried
putting
it.
these out.
I don't know if it's whether or not they were hoping for like because obviously with Heroes Reborn coming out, there's been lots of stories of like that they got a phone call, they said it was cancelled, and then no, they got a phone call, said it was going to be less episodes, then they got a phone call, said it was going to be like 5 episodes, got a phone call, said it was going to be made into a mini movie, got a phone call, they said it was going to make like a one-off episode, then they got a phone call and said it was cancelled. So obviously they kind of thought, let's just try and put these out and see what happens. But yeah,
Yeah, that's sad because I mean, These last 8, man, they were not interesting to me at all.
They were interesting in the fact that they kind of were giving us a backstory to the founders, but also at the same time, it wasn't really about the founders. It was about these kind of offshoot of characters who we kind of really didn't really need. Like, you didn't need Emma Coolidge's uncle, and you didn't need like the mother or grandmother of Ted Sprague. Do you know what I'm saying?
That,
So yeah, it just felt like adding them in for the sake of adding them in when we could have got better stories about the actual growth of the company that wasn't tackled in one page of, oh, they've joined now.
yeah,
So yeah,
exactly. So, what's next on our agenda, sir? I have been kind of
we
avoiding wanting to talk about Heroes Evolution because I feel like it deserves its own episode. But
yeah, I I really can't go into like how much extra stuff they have.
exactly.
So all we're gonna do is we're gonna mention them, say if we actually went to them and what we thought of them, and I've got like a brief kind of breakdown of what everything kind of gave you. So we obviously had the Ninth Wonders board. Did you go on that?
Yeah, and then when the rise of Siler, the Sarmi, I just kind of was like, okay, this isn't for me anymore. That whole.
Fair enough.
What about you?
I only ever went on it to kind of spam out my RPG, if I'm perfectly honest. Yeah, I just went on there and just did that. It didn't even occur to me to kind of join it because I think I was so wrapped up in my own RPG that I was like, well, there was like a separate kind of RPG board on there, and I kind of just went to that and saw who was in that and tried to get people from there. But
I guess
yes,
we should probably explain for people who weren't around though. Heroes Evolution was like this weird digital extension of the Heroes universe. Started off as Heroes 360 experience, and then in season 2 it got changed. Heroes Evolution was what day did it start? It was like January 2007, and I think it was like right after
no,
Godsend is when they were like really like it's a go go go,
okay.
right?
Did they have the kind? I had no
Cause oh
idea
yeah,
to be
cause you
honest.
were
Because I
in the
was,
you were overseas, so it was a little different.
yeah,
But you guys had the BBC
definitely.
version, right?
Yeah, we had Heroes Revealed, I believe it was, which was basically because it was shown on BBC Two, it was 45 minutes because they had no commercial breaks on the BBC, and you had that extra kind of 15 minutes they had to kind of pad out. So they ended up doing Heroes Revealed or Heroes Unmasked. It was that kind of titles changed, so that would kind of pad out the last 15 minutes so that it could get to 10 o'clock and they could show them. So that's all we really
You
got.
know, it won an
Apart
Emmy
from we
though
got,
for interactive
did
media
it?
programming. Yeah,
Okay, no.
pretty cool.
Hmm. So yes, we have. After that, we have so many goddamn websites.
I
we
know.
have we have the activatingevolution.org, which is basically it's kind of the website for Chandra Suresh's kind of research, which also was run by Mahinda. And there was some sections like there was a dream study section where you could submit your own dreams and they were kind of analyzed. There was a theory section and interviews, which was like all in character, a mailbag, which was like letters sent to Mahinda, and then journal entries from Mahinda. But then it was also one of those things that you could kind of, from other things, you could kind of find hidden like little Easter eggs inside. Did you ever populate the Activating Evolutions board or?
I did for a little bit, but then it got like really weird. I was just like, okay, moving on. No sand jog. Like I thought
Yeah.
that was like a natural place to put him or something. Like, and it never
Yeah.
happened. So I was just like, okay, I'm out.
So next up we have Brian Undaunted, which was essentially a blog, and after the Petrelli win, it was this character called Brian who we talked about in one of the graphic novels. It was kind of his way for atoning for what he did, his part in the kind of the voting hack. So it was him like revealing like little tidbits of what happened. So yeah, I never went to that. I'm assuming yes. So we'll go on to the next one, which is CorinthianLasVegas.com, which was just essentially a gaming site to like play like blackjack and all that kind of stuff. But then obviously if you won enough money, you could go into like the Platinum Lounge, which kind of
Oh,
got you Easter eggs. So yeah,
yeah,
no, never,
I
no.
did. I had a
Okay.
little bit of a gambling thing. It was fun. So yeah, it was really
Uh,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was one of the best ones next to the primatechpaper.com one.
Okay. Yes. So we'll move on to Eavesdropper's blog, which is just eavesdropper giving messages, and he would give you like ways in which to like find little hacks into some of these websites. So it was mainly done for that, and that was the same for Hannah's website. It was a place to kind of get passwords and hacks for other sites. So yeah, I never really looked at
I
those.
saw Hannah's website because I think they were really pushing in the comic books when they did her two little things. Remember, she had like two different
Yes.
sets of graphic novels, and I was like, okay, whatever, nothing to write home about.
Then we had Hero's blog, which is obviously a blog written in character. He used star dates to kind of date everything, and yeah, I'd never read any of those.
Wait,
You?
is this the one where he started sending out assignments and then like it just stops all of a sudden because they got canceled? Is this the part where
I
he
have
starts
no
talking
idea.
about the foundation and stuff? Because I think there might be another foundation website that not.
There is a Yamagato
Okay, yeah, then I
fellowship.
went to
Yeah.
that one. I don't think I ever actually went to Heroes actual one.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to that one, which is the YamagatoFellowship.org, and it's basically it was a hero's quest, and it also had the kind of Sword Saint documentary on, which gave you more into Takeo Kensei. So yeah, you obviously went to that.
Yeah,
So do
that
you
was
want to
really
explain it?
well done, actually. We have to talk about
Yeah.
Sword Saint one of these days. We mentioned it way back when, but we should definitely get around to it after Heroes Return.
Okay. Yeah, why not? So next up we have LasVegasNikki.com, which was only really used to be for an iStory, basically.
Yeah.
It was yeah, it didn't
Like
even
I was like,
it
no, Allie
had her
Larder shaking her butt, really?
and then we go on to pinehurstresearch.com, which had a phone number which you could call, and then that would lead you to like getting messages later on, and it
Only if
also
you
gave
had
you
a Sprint phone.
backdoor. Oh, okay.
Is that this
Oh
one where you
man.
only? I know for like some of these you could only have a Sprint phone, and I didn't have Sprint at the time. I had AT&T.
I
It's
have
like, damn
no
you!
idea. But then obviously there's backdoor hacks which
Yeah,
may manage to get more info. And then there was the WAP sites, which is what? What does WAP stand
I
for?
know it has something to do with like before 3G internet on your phone,
Okay, let me pull it up
right?
just to see what it stands for. I'm assuming so. I have no
Yep,
idea.
wireless application protocol. Yep.
Okay, and basically that was just what texts from Bridget Bailey and Hannah's messages, Heroes messages, Pinehurst and Primatech messages, and Rebel messages eventually. So yeah, it was just a way to kind of divert, like bring you onto the other of the sites in order to kind of get through and all that kind of stuff. I never did that obviously because not American.
Oh,
There was also the votepetrelli.com, which eventually got hacked, but you could call to register and hear stories about
they had
Nathan,
a missed
which,
opportunity. They should have totally like if you like did a certain thing, you could get like one of those vote for Petrelli buttons. They never did
oh
that.
man, yes, that would have been awesome. So what else happened? There was Global News Interactive, which was essentially just a way of talking about Richard Drucker. So yeah, you know,
Yeah.
then we've also talked about the Habbo Sin Anders kind of character that was created for the Habbo Hotel. She was had the power of what emotional manipulation or something like that. Yep. Enough said about that. We had the Heroes Versus, which was basically MySpace and like MySpace profiles, because at the time MySpace was kind of a thing.
It's still a
And
thing if
yeah,
you're in trying to get into the music business. Don't be talking
okay.
smack about
Oh,
MySpace, okay? Still better than
sorry.
Facebook. People are just sheeple,
Okay.
okay?
They also had a Where is Hero section, which was essentially where is Wally? He'd just be hiding out in like photos. Really bad photo manips. Yeah, there was Hero Survival, which I actually got into, and it was basically you created a character and then you'd have like every Tuesday and Thursday or something like that, you'd be able to get a new mission, and you just basically it was kind of like choose your own adventure, and you could like choose to go this way or choose to go that way, and you could get health every time you logged in. You would get
It was
health,
basically
and yeah, it was
iStories, but a
really
better iStories version.
yes, definitely because it was more interactive. It wasn't just typing and reading. It was like you could gain
Yeah, you
stuff.
had to
It was
register.
it's kind of like yes, and that's how like most of the characters from the iStories kind of populated from that, because in the second quote unquote season they had the factions kind of aspect of it, where you could join like a faction and you'd have to choose whether you're a hero, villain, or a neutral, and then you'd be put into a faction with other people. Not that you would ever really kind of interact with them, but still, yeah. I went on that. I did that for like about like most of the time. Like I would log in every day to kind of get my power ups basically, and then just choose a decision of what to do. Did you ever do it?
No.
No.
I was more of an
Oh.
iStory person because it didn't
Uh,
require too much like effort.
okay. So finally, we have probably the best kind of thing that Heroes Evolutions thing brought us, which was primatechpaper.com, which had that
It was
was
an ARG
a way to
technically
give
though,
us kind
right?
of yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it had like loads of the assignment trackers, which we talk about fairly regularly, and they also had like an assignment tracker map where it was kind of loady and like it moved and stuff, which was kind of cool. And they had also had something about Devon's PDA, which I never really checked out. Obviously, all I ever really did was check out the assignment trackers whenever I could find them. I think even like screen grabbed all of them at one point just to have them up so that I could kind of pick and choose stuff. I really liked it. How about you?
Yeah, primatechpaper.com was the best. It was awesome. I really miss it, and I hope they do something like that again. I honestly remember when we thought we stumbled across something when we were. I swear,
It was
it just I feel like that's gonna happen again.
what was the name of the company
It's like
again?
some
It
fresh
was that
food
place in
place,
India.
like global food place
Yeah, it was in
in
yes,
India.
yes, we'll find yes, if you have to find, if you want to listen to it, if you want to try and find it, just go back to the first couple of Rebellion Reborns where we're talking about the when we're doing the live tweets, the
The
live
live
tweets when we're doing the
commentary.
live commentary of the Heroes Dark Matters webisodes. I think it might be even be in the theory crafting one where we get really excited about it. We'll find out and then yeah. Oh god, I hope it is. We're gonna have to go back and search that just before Heroes Reborn starts up. Anyway, that's it. We're moving on to the iStories, which I have like really bad roundups on. So I don't know if you can give us a better kind of aspect or a better kind of
I
view on
mean,
them.
honestly, they're bad
So
because they're just point and click. So I mean, you're not really
yeah,
you don't worry about not doing it justice. You are doing it justice just
fair
talking
enough.
about it.
If you really want to go find them, they're on the Heroes Wiki, and they have like basically they've cut and pasted them, most of them. So yes, we will start off with. Let me pull up the whole thing. It'll probably be
I'm
easier
just gonna
because
say
then
the
I can.
reason why I like the eye stories is because like even if you like mess up, you literally just start at the beginning again. I was just like, sweet.
I didn't. I don't think I ever really did them. But like looking back on them, I used to really love kind of like choose your own adventure books when I was a kid. I don't know if you have them over there, but basically you start off on a page, and it will say they'll say like at the end of it, it'll be like so you can. One of them was like you could be a superhero, and it'll be like so if you want to have powers of like
Go page
superheroing, go
seven.
to this
Yeah.
page. Yes, and then you'd be holding on to every page just to make sure that you didn't die and then have to start up again.
Yeah,
So
we had
yeah.
those, and I remember I had one specifically it was for like the Legend of Zelda.
Oh my. Oh, they missed a trick. They should have like released these as like those books. But anyway, we're gonna go on to the iStories. The first, there was two of them to begin with. One was they were both called Friend or Foe, but they were kind of splintered. Oh, I say that because the first one's called Operation Splinter. But they were basically two. You could be a member of Primatech or a member of Pinehurst. So Operation Splinter was where you were joined Primatech, and you were basically a contractor, and you were trying to find Ricardo Silva, who was Red Eye
Kill
from the
Squad.
graphic novels. Yes, and the Kill Squad have basically at this point kind of gone rogue, and you have to work in the last kind of stories. You have to work with the Pinehurst contractor in order to stop them, and then that brings us to Friend or Foe Bad Blood, which is the Pinehurst version of the Friend or Foe story. And in that one, you've got to find Anna, who is the other side to kind of Ricardo Silva. They're very much linked in the comic books and in here. And again, you have to end up working with the Primatech agent in order to take down the Kill Squad. And that's basically what I've got for Friend or Foe. Did you do
I did
that
them
one?
all.
Oh, you
Yeah, like
did.
I said, it was like no
Okay.
effort at all. You didn't even have to register. And if you died, you just went right back to the beginning and fix what you messed up on. No pressure. That's my favorite kind of video thing, interactive thing.
Next up, we have The Private, and it's The Private was released during the hiatus of season 3 and 4. So probably I've got these all in the wrong order, but who cares? I just went through them how they found them on Heroes Wiki. Basically, it's got Rachel in a job interview, and she starts flashing back to the war or telling the story about the war that she was in. She ends up being captured. She kind of sees strange things, and then at the end she kind of gets the job because it shows that she's a soldier
Well, yeah, well,
essentially. So
I think
yeah.
it's really important to point out that she's like a female Marine. Like, God bless.
Yes. Oh god. Obviously, like Rachel Mills is the one from The Recruit in the webisodes, and she's in a couple of episodes of Fugitives, and kind of that other volume,
Yeah, in the
Villains.
comics.
I think,
She's been
yeah,
all over the
kind
place.
of, but yeah, she was what a better Hannah.
Yes.
Like they basically had her all over the place and kind of. But if you read one thing, it was obviously because everything was written by different people. It kind of she would jump from character to character or something like that. But yeah, the next one I have is again starring Rachel, and it's called The Agent, and it was released after the second episode of Volume 4. So yeah, it's basically has her working for Nathan's team inside the government, and obviously they start bringing in parts of the show. So they end up she's at the crash site, and she ends up having nightmares because she was there when Parkman turned his gun, like made one of the guy turn their guns on the rest of the team. She's being tapped by Rebel to kind of help, and she ends up she's one of the people who tries to end up capturing Alex, obviously failing, and her and Claire kind of, and that's part of the kind of show. And then in the graphic novel she gets found out, and that's brought up in the Asian iStory, and it ends up bringing in like this whole cascade of extra characters. There was like a team of her mothers called Law, who was basically made up of her mother, whose name was Leona, Anna, Ricardo, and two twins who I'd never met, who were called Valerie and Victor, and they made up the W part of it,
Get it? Valerie and
right?
Victor, two V's behind each other, side by side.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And basically ends up with her obviously being her and Rachel kind of work. Rachel and Anna work together, but of course, this being Heroes, they split up. Anna ends up going to a circus for some reason, and Rachel is found out
That
by
was
her
our
superiors,
first
but
cue
ends up
about
using.
Samuel.
Yes, yes. And then she ends up helping out with an underground railroad for specials called Ellen, which again is one of her mother's groups, and she ends up being reunited with her mother at
Because
the end of
nobody
it.
stays dead,
Uh,
not even in the I story.
exactly. Exactly. We will move on to next.
The civilian?
The Civilian, which is. It was released after the sixth installment of the Rebellion graphic novel arc. So, yes, this basically has Rachel now living as a normie or a normal person as a police officer. She's living with her mother in order to try and fix their kind of relationship. And it ends up with like her police chief is kind of doing quote unquote special research, and it ends up with loads of specials coming to their town and her having to try and force them out of the town to try and protect it. So yeah.
Wait, because no,
Uh,
let's talk about this. Like, because the lady that she goes up against, I think if I remember, her name's Kelly, and she has Eden's power.
okay. No, no
Oh,
clue.
and then like Claire shows up, and then they like save the town, and it was just
Yes.
like, ugh, Claire. But it's only because it leads into the next actual story, and they were just kind of like piggybacking off of everything at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's not even like Claire's in this. Alex is all over these kind of web stories as well. He makes his Alex Woosley kind of comes in and out all the time. So yeah, it kind of felt like not. It kind of felt like stunt casting in the fact that they were trying to link everything in that much. So yeah. The next one's called Faction Zero, which is a very interesting one because my character is in it as one of the groups. So yeah, let's just say I'm pretty hyped about that. If you go to Heroes Wiki, you will find him. His name's Pacey McNeil. What? Yeah,
Casey,
that's right.
so
Yeah.
British.
What? No, that's straight up
I
out of
know.
Dawson's Creek, yo.
Every time I hear Pacey, I just think of like some Dickensian tale.
So, Faction Zero is about Claire and Rachel working together. There's a vigilante going around kind of killing specials, and all these ex quote unquote fugitives are coming out of the woodwork. Faction Zero is the main kind of group, and they're after Sabine, who we talked about in the graphic novels, who basically had a baby, who was having a baby, and you end up finding out that the baby was going to have the power of cloning, but every clone would have its own separate power, and it kind of and there's like another group with Thompson Jr. leads, and it basically just they end up at the
No, no,
circus for
no.
some reason.
Listen, they have the
Oh,
fire breathing family, dude, and it was just like,
yes, the
what?
Bowmans.
This is what you do.
Yeah,
You're like, oh crap.
yes, the Bowmans come in and out of it as well now, don't they? Because they are part of the Slow Burn saga, which is next. Again, find Pacey McNeil on Heroes Wiki. He's awesome. He's part of the Unity crew. What? Next up, we have Slow Burn, which is all about the Bowmans, and it's released. The release was coincide with the episode of Ink, and it was each chapter was accompanied by the 90-second clip of the Heroes webisode. So yeah, like we said, like all the carnival stuff was all done in the background of the show. So it was all done in like the graphic novels, the webisodes, and this iStory. And it's basically just about the Bowmans living at the carnival. Both the parents have kind of differing opinions on whether or not to stay. And you're going to know more about this than I do. There's a mysterious watcher who starts trying to turn carnival I'm gonna have to call them carnies, the carnival people against each other, and the Bowmen start arguing about whether they should stay or not. It ends up with the Watcher essentially saying the carnival will eventually be taken down, but it's going to be taken down by someone from the inside, not from the outside.
Only that wasn't quite true.
Yeah, which makes us move on to the Puppet
Ugh.
Master.
I thought you liked Doyle.
The Puppet Master. He's all right, but like I didn't realize how much extra content there was
Yes.
for him. So yes, this is.
This ghost was nowhere
I
near
don't even know when
webisodes
it was
though.
released. Okay, it kind of does because it's all I've got is Doyle. It's kind of taken in. It's kind of led in with the graphic novel where he joins the carnival because it's him being taken in, and it gives you more of a story about him trying to get Lauren, his quote unquote girlfriend from the webisodes, to kind of join them. He reveals his power, and she ultimately rejects him. So yeah, that's basically it.
Was like this
That's all
one.
we need to say.
Oh, but the last one is kind of my
Yeah.
favorite, honestly.
Yeah. So do you remember anything about it, or do you want me to say what I gathered from my notes, and you can extrapolate or extend what you kind of your knowledge about it. So there's a character called John Mulligan, and he's a former agent, and he's basically trying to be normal, and he's also trying to find a purpose with life. And all I've got is Samuel comes a calling, trying to stop Samuel.
Oh, well, okay. So John Milligan, he went on the run like when Building 26 was like capturing fugitives, and he kind of like feels really guilty. He does join Lauren and Noah eventually, and he has a really cool power, which is temporal rewind.
Okay. So it's like 6 or 7
Yeah, like
seconds.
that character you're talking about.
Yeah. 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 Okay. And that's basically all I have for the iStories. Again, check them out on the Heroes Wiki. They are all on there, and they all have kind of breakdowns for them. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are iStories. The I is for interactive, not for just
Yes.
because if you're on a Mac or an iPhone or an iPad or an iPod Touch.
I choose this. I choose that. That is basically what it stands for. Yes. So, I guess that's basically everything that we can talk about Heroes Prime related. We'll probably, hopefully, go back into some of these in a bit more in depth, but we kind of wanted to get a final wrap up of kind of Heroes Prime to kind of, get it done. So, we were going to just finish off with a Heroes Prime kind of wrap up. So, the first question I want to ask you is, out of all 5 volumes, Lilith, which one is your favourite volume and why?
I'm gonna have to go with the first one. It captured my attention. The first season of Heroes captured my attention and endeared the characters to me in such a way. It had the most episodes. It was like, I don't know. It was just something really special about that first season of Heroes that I'll never forget. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally understand. If I hadn't have rewatched this in time for Heroes Reborn, I would have said season one as well, because just because of the nostalgia feel and just remembering like watching them, I remembered why I love some of these characters so much. But also in the rewatch, I started to be able to kind of pick apart what I didn't like about the show. Like, so upon rewatch, I've got to go with volume four. I've got to go with the Fugitives volume. Even though it's messy in places and some of the episodes are kind of not fillery, but there's questionable choices about some of the episodes. It is more of a concise story. It's only 12 episodes, and I think it's very action packed, and especially on the on a binge watch kind of way, you can watch all of them back to back without really getting that much
Ugh,
fatigue. So
that's the one that is actually the
huh?
volume that suffers the most in the rewatch for me. I think the most improved if
Okay.
you rewatch is actually season two. Like even with the writer's
Oh
strike and
yeah.
it only being 11 episodes, I went back and thought as I watched the rest of the series, I'm like season two wasn't that bad. I just hated it because of the writer's strike.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, I definitely had that feeling watching season two back as well. I was just like, well, yeah, it's again like the nostalgia thing of season one and just like remembering all the good times. Watching it back, like even just when we were going to start watching it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a drag. But I ended up feeling like I ended up like enjoying it more than I thought I would. So yeah. So we'll go on to which is your worst volume and why.
Uh, Villains volume, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Volume
yeah.
three, I totally agree. Yeah, I think it was just a disappointing bad guy. There was a lot of hype around it for me that never kind of really paid off, and yeah, there was only one kind of good thing about it, which was kind of the emergence of Peter as a character, and kind of also at the same time kind of pushing him to the back. If you get me, he wasn't at the front of nearly
Yep.
every episode, but that's the only good thing that I can really pick apart from that season or that volume. So yeah, why is it the worst for
Oh,
you?
it's just so many epic logic fails, and it just shows that they were just reeling, and they never really bounced back from that writer's strike. As far as I'm concerned, it always hurt and hindered them
Mm,
because they had to scrap so many ideas, and they just floundered from there. And nowhere does it show the most in this particular volume. It's like, okay, we got to make up for all this
mm.
lost time. What do we do? And then it's also where they start being weird with Siler, trying to make him like first
Yeah.
morally gray and the anti-hero. Then they like, you really see the inklings of them trying to make him a hero and seeing how far they can push that with the fandom.
Mm, yes. So I was gonna say, do you want to do best and worst from each volume, or would you rather just pick apart a couple of episodes that that you thought stand out from the whole season, and a couple that you think were really bad? Which would you rather
We can
do?
do we can do best and worst of each season. It's fine. I totally know off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if you want to go first, we'll go with volume one, obviously. So we'll start with the best. Which is your favorite
I
or
have
favorites
three
of
that
episode?
really, really stick out. Obviously, Genesis. I
Yeah.
really like it. Sucked me in, even though I had seen the unaired pilot. I understood the changes that they made, and I thought they
Mhm.
actually worked for the most part. It was a really good pilot.
Yep.
5 years
Mm.
gone, obviously, and
Yep.
6 months ago. And Company
Okay.
Man, of course.
I Yes, there we go. I'm gonna go with pretty much exactly the same ones. I maybe not Genesis, but Genesis is a great pilot. But if I had to pick one or two, I think the standouts are obviously for me 5 years gone and
Company Man.
Company Man. Those are the two standouts from that season. That if I had to tell anyone watching who was going to watch Heroes, those would be the first two that I would say you have to watch. Even if you're watching them cold, you have to watch those two episodes. I think they're so
I think
great.
5 years gone you can watch Cold, but I don't think if you don't have any
Yeah,
investment with HRG
yeah,
that Company Man's like, well, he's just a big bag of dicks. Always been a big bag of dicks.
definitely. So shall we go for worst? worst episode of
I mean, if
Volume
you want
One?
to do
What
number
would you
one,
say?
hands down, the worst episode, it's Better Halves.
Oh my God, I was looking exactly at that for the whole time. Yes, definitely. That is the DL reveal episode, and it is probably one of the worst episodes of like that I can remember ever watching of Heroes. Yeah.
The most
Oh God.
disappointing episode, though, I'd have to say was Homecoming, because it's like save the cheerleader, save the world, and I don't know. Like looking back at it, it just didn't live up to that hype.
Yeah. But then you can say exactly the same about How to Stop an Exploding Man. And I think that finale kind of started the trend of kind of closing the door on the fight because you were expecting this big battle at the end and it just never paid off.
Yeah, even
So
when
yeah.
Hero kills
I'm not
Siler, it's just like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying that those are the kind. I'm not saying that either of those are like one of my worst of this volume, but just in the aspect of what we were expecting and what we're built up, they were just a very much a disappointment. So yeah. So we will move on to. Shall we do favorite characters and worst characters of each volume,
I
or shall we
think it
just leave
never
that
really
out
changes,
completely?
honestly, for me. But if it changes for you,
Yeah.
feel free.
Okay. Okay, well, my favorite character of season one is obviously Hero. He's awesome throughout, and probably my worst character is Nikki or DL, whichever, because I just think in a show about people with superpowers, a lot of them have very differing ways of dealing with it, and obviously Nikki's got mental health issues, but just seeing someone cry about it all the time and be essentially the victim for most of the time just didn't really do it for me. So yeah, how about you?
My favorite character in Volume One was Mohinder, hands down. I loved his daddy issues. I love that he was the everyday man. I love that he was smart. He was determined, and he made all these mistakes, but he was still a really good person at the end of season one. And my least favorite
Yeah,
characters are Nikki and DL was just underdeveloped, and like the
yeah.
the little constipated stare just for DL just didn't help either. Um, so yeah,
Okay, so we'll move on to volume two, generations. So which is your favorite? I'm looking at them now, and yes, I can probably pick one out. So, what is your favorite episode from Generations?
I think I'm just gonna go ahead and say 4 months ago. It's a classic, meaning it was directed by Greg Beeman, written by Tim Kring, and it's a flashback.
Yeah. I am probably gonna go with Powerless. Looking at it because it signals the end of the writer's strike for me because it's done. No, I'm joking. I'm probably gonna go with Cautionary Tales because it's a hero centric episode. I'm a big hero fan, obviously, but also it kind of stops him from being the kind of comedic character and kind of brings him and makes him a bit more human, like having to deal with the grief of his father's death. So yeah, what are you going to go with worst episode for?
Everything else? No, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna be like that. I think the kindness of strangers was like garbage and unneeded.
mm. I'm looking at it now and I can't even pick one out. I maybe the line.
I could see that too.
So yeah, I don't even. I. It's just yeah. Okay. Favorite character of season two.
Um,
Oh, not season.
it's
Volume two.
it's Mohinder again. He was like about that life at that point, and it devolved
Yeah.
into a hot mess. Yeah, but at least he was willing to like fight back and stand up for himself, and try to continue his father's work. And he still wanted to help people at this point, and that was really like important to me.
Hmm. I'm probably gonna go with HRG at this point because he just carries on being as good as he is in season one, but kind of bringing it up and kind of bringing in Sandra at some
And not
point, and the kind of yeah, and exactly, and never really knowing which side he's on, but you all obviously know he's always going to be on Claire's side. But yeah, I really think he's a very interesting character. Who knows what would have happened if they had just killed him off and left it, but I'm glad they didn't. So yes, I think I know the answer to this, but who is your worst character?
Oh man, everybody in New Orleans. Yeah, I
Really?
totally hated that subplot from
Okay.
hell.
Uh, I think the thing about kind of volume two is it kind of got away from the. the aspect of everyone converging on one point and all these stories kind of interlinking at some point, whereas these felt like they were very separate storylines all of a sudden. I think that was a big detriment to that. But my worst character is the Maya, and yeah, I just can't. I just think it's a slap in the face of it. Bless Dania. She's a great actress, but they just didn't give her much with this character apart from cry. And I think it's quite a big thing that you give a girl, a female character, the power
See,
to
that's the
cry.
thing.
I think
Like
it's kind of
when
a
I'm watching it, I hate Maya, but when I'm not like actually thinking about it, like I don't even remember. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like blocked out
fair
of my
enough. Yeah,
mind, and it's
yeah.
so bad I don't even remember unless I'm actively watching it.
Okay. So guess we'll move on to Volume 3
No, Bill.
Fugitives. No, Volume 3
Okay,
Villains.
hero.
What is your favorite episode of this?
Oh, this is hard. Um, they're all kind of ho hum, honestly. But I'm just gonna say the Second Coming because it had so much promise. The first episode had so much
Yes.
promise. Like, oh snaps, it's future Peter with the scar. What's going on? Nathan
Yeah.
just got shot. He looks like he's dead. And he's alive again. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree that Second Coming had so much potential. Um, to be honest, it is the only like one of the best episodes of Volume 3, but that isn't really saying much. Yeah, it's the best of a bad bunch. But the way that it starts off, pretty much bringing you straight into the action, is great, and it kind of starts answering questions
There's
straight
no
away,
time jump too,
which
so
exactly. So yeah, that's the only reason why I'll give it to it. Why? What episode are you going to do for the
villains
worst of
hands down,
Volume
or Eclipse Part One and Part
Villains?
Two. Take your pick.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. Even that, I might even. I just remember the feeling of dread having to talk about these episodes. That final block
From
of
villains
like,
to duel, it is awful.
yeah, it is such a hard watch. Just because of like the jumps in like continuity
God.
and as we've said many times, throwing everything against the wall and hoping something sticks. So yeah, who's your favorite character of volume 3? Sorry.
Um, brown hair, no clear. Brown hair, no care, Claire. If I'm being like
Yes.
facetious, but I think it's Angela, the rise of Angela Trelly.
Yes. I think I'm gonna have to agree because obviously this is where she is now a regular, so she gets more time to shine. Yeah, I think, glad she's in Heroes Reborn, even if it's only for a couple of episodes. Who is your worst character?
Siler. Yeah,
Yeah?
I hated the changes they were
Just
making. It
because of
was
his.
just like I'm not here for that.
Okay. I am going to go with all the quote unquote villains because they had so much promise and none of them delivered. Like you've got Robert Forster, who just kind of come off or been in the public eye for Jackie Brown, where he's kind of a badass, and here he just kind of phones it in. And all the escapees, all of them had such promise from like all the clips that they were showing beforehand to preview it, and they were all one and done. The only one who was kind of interesting was Stephen
One
Canfield,
and done.
but yeah, one and done. So yeah. So we'll move on to Fugitives, Volume 4. Which is your favorite episode?
Ooh, I mean, for me, it was just kind of like, eh. But I'm gonna go with 1961.
Okay. Just because it's awesome.
It's a flashback episode. It answers well. It teased me with some answers about the founders, the young actors in that. Well, baby Angela and her baby sister were amazing, and it just sucked me in. And I loved the
Yes.
Charles DeVoe of it all. I even liked seeing how shy Bob was and what a weird creeper Linderman was, even though he had a weird crazy accent. It was still a really well done episode in the past tense. Maybe not the present day part of it, but the past tense one was really phenomenal.
So I am going to go with. No, I'm going to go with
Okay.
Exposed. Just because of the tour de force of Mama Bennett. She is awesome in this episode, and she was always like a background character to me. But this is the episode where I started like being like, yeah, she's kind of badass, and it just felt so natural, her character in that episode, and yeah, I absolutely love that episode. So yeah, which is your
Oh,
worst?
it has to be Cold Snap. Yeah,
Yeah, cause
just
just
cause. I mean,
cause.
it was brutal. I mean, we had Cold Wars, Exposed, Shades of Grey, and then Cold Snap just comes in, and it's just like, really, this is all you have to offer.
Mm.
Okay.
I think I don't know if I kind of want into Asylum maybe just for the that is religion, right? Yeah, it is. Yes, because of religion, and there was no need. So yeah, how about your favorite character?
Uh, I'm gonna go with Denko. Scandalous, I know. I mean, he seemed like a generic villain,
Yeah,
but at least he was good at his job until he decided to work with Tyler. And even
mm,
those interactions
definitely.
were
Yeah,
pretty sweet. Well, if I'm gonna be real.
yeah, because I think it says a lot that you've got someone who's human who's able to hang with them, and that's kind of always been one of HRG's kind of strong suits. And I think that's one of the reasons why I choose him as well. Like, even though he is a generic bad guy, all he has is he's one of those guys who will do anything for the greater good of his own kind. Like, even if it's like turning innocent Matt Parkman into like a bomb threat, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with him. How about worst character?
I really hated where they were going with HRG's character at this point. I was really disappointed. He wasn't living up to the HRG great expectations that they had set forth, and they kind of let him fall to the wayside. So yeah,
I am probably gonna have to go with Claire. No, no, I'm not gonna go with Claire. I don't even know who
just
I'm
say
gonna
Tracy.
go with. I've got no one. Yes. Oh God, anyone? Yes, I'm gonna have to go with Tracy because she's just so like her character. She's just so lost and directionless, and it's how I feel whenever I watch her. It seems like they had no real plan for her. They just wanted to get Ali Lata back because they love her. So yes, we'll move on to Volume 5.
Favorite episode of Volume 5? I think maybe Upon This Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For why?
That's a good character motivation. Samuel is just like the bee's knees of manipulative bastards in this one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I am probably going to go with the fifth stage. As bad as it is, they finally have let a character die. Um, and it only took them, what? Let me see.
70 episodes.
70 episodes for them to do it. So yeah, and also like I think it's a nice little thing between the brothers finally getting their little, I love you kind of properly moment. And it's got nice little harkbacks to the first couple of seasons. So yeah, I'll go with that. What's your worst episode?
Once Upon a Time in Texas. My absolute least favorite episode of all of Heroes. That is really hard to do.
I am probably going to go with. I might just have to go with the wall,
Ooh.
just because it's like we were talking about before, like you've talked about before. Like it's a penultimate episode, and it doesn't really get us anywhere. All it kind of does is set up the finale, but not even that in that good a way. Maybe that one, or yeah, that's the only one I can really think of. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. So, who's your favorite character?
Actually, I'm just gonna go with as whiny as Claire was. At least she was like trying to do something about her life. She was trying to get a control of
Yeah.
her life, and she was very much the believable college student. Like she's trying to figure things out. She's trying to make new relationships. She finally stood up to everybody in this season. She told Angela the what for, Peter the what for, Siler the what for, her dad the what for. The only thing that brings it down is what she does at the end of the series, which she makes a decision for probably 1.5 billion people at that point, and I don't think that was right or fair.
I'm just gonna have to go with, even though he gets ruined at the end, I'm gonna have to go with Samuel because he is a great character, and maybe that's just because of the Knep himself.
Let's be real,
Bringing,
it's the Canap. It's because of the
yeah,
Canap.
even with dodgy Irish accent, or whatever Carney accent he's putting on, he is a great character from pretty much beginning to middle, and they just ruin him at the end. So yeah, how about worst character of the season?
I'm sorry, Ricky, but Hero.
Oh no, ah!
I mean, I like the resolution that they give him, but like how we got there, especially in this season, being still a man child in the fourth, what turns out to be the final season,
Yeah.
it was so painful.
Yeah, I can agree with you, but I'm gonna have to go with, as much as I like the concept of the character, I'm gonna have to go with that whole kind of Nathan Law Trinity. It was just so bad, and they were just delaying the inevitable. So yeah, just and it takes up half the season.
I would give that the
So
worst storyline of Heroes, definitely.
okay, yeah, but the actors do their best with what they're given, but at the same time, like it just took far too long to happen. Even though they essentially start breaking it off from the beginning, yeah, it's just too much, I think. So yeah, that's basically it.
All right. I do want to say that I think Samuel was the best villain. We kind of mentioned this in passing, but I
Oh,
definitely give
definitely,
him that.
yeah.
And then the worst one is Papa Petrelli.
Hmm.
Well, Maury, because he was so underdeveloped and so easily dispatched. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, definitely because that came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, he's not dead, and he can
Yeah,
take powers, and he's telepathic as well, and just. Ugh.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, that looks like a pretty solid wrap up to Heroes Prime for now. Of course, because, Heroes Reborn might potentially only be 13 episodes. We still have tons to talk about and explore because this universe is huge. So,
Definitely. And also, if when you're listening to this, just send us a message either on Twitter or Facebook or Tumblr. Just let us know your personal favorite and worst kind of volumes and or characters from each volume or whatnot. Or just give us your thoughts on Heroes Prime as a kind of general thought. So yes, please.
awesome. So, I guess it is time for our final shameless plug and self promotion for Heroes Prime. Looks like it's time for some shameless plugs and self promotion. We'll start with the show contact info. We here at Primatech Files love listener feedback. If you would like to get a hold of us, we have a ton of ways. You can email us via primatechfiles@gmail.com. You can leave us a private message or interact with our posts over on facebook.com/Primatech Files. We live tweet 2 episodes per week every Saturday starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For more information, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Primatech Files. You can also find us on Clamor, Tumblr, and YouTube by simply searching for Primatech Files. If you enjoy this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. What's that? You don't have an iTunes account? That's okay. We're on a lot of podcatcher services such as Stitcher and SoundCloud. All you have to do is search for, you guessed it, Primatech Files. We're also on Libsyn, and if you want to follow our RSS feed there, all you have to do is go to primatechfiles.libsyn.com and bookmark the site to stay up to date with this podcast. Libsyn is spelled Libsyn, just in case you were wondering. We look forward to interacting with you.
If you love our podcast, be sure to check out Southgate Media Group's iTunes provider page to see a list of what other podcasts are hot and trending in our network. Or you can take that one step further and visit southgatemediagroup.com, where you can find a full list of our 80 plus podcasts, along with weekly blogs and information about all the hosts. With so many podcasts that cover everything from anime to wrestling, there's sure to be tons of podcasts that could interest you.
Hey guys, you should know by now that you can find me on Twitter at Lilith Hellfire. If you have a Tumblr, be sure to check out it's lilithhellfire.tumblr.com. And of course, be sure to swing by my blog if you are a pop culture junkie or comic book geek at littlepopculturevulture.blogspot.com. I also host several other podcasts on the Southgate Media Group network. Some of them are The Flashpoint, Queen Consolidated, and Channel 52. So if you are into, obviously, DC comic book related stuff, be sure to check it out.
You can find my writings at tvbinges.com. It's a place for all your binge watching needs, and you can also create your own TV binge and we'll help promote it. We do a monthly binge watch, which you're more than welcome to join in. Just go to their Twitter at tvbinges just to find out more information. You can find me on Twitter at RickyJDiaz. That's RickyJDiaz, or Z if you're American.
And it is officially time to wrap it up. Heroes Prime is done. Get the champagne into confetti because that means Heroes Reborn is on the way.
Or it's already here, but we're just very late in releasing this. But I did send out a tweet ages ago, and it was 19 months ago that this was first announced. 6 months ago we started this podcast. Here we are finishing it off with a little over a week to go until Heroes Reborn. I cannot wait. So yes,
So, Ricky, tell them what to do for the final time.
Download the podcast, save the world.